Some animated shows just burrow their way into your brain, you know? And for me, Chowder, which popped up on Cartoon Network back in the, late 2000s. It's a prime example.
Oh, yeah?
It felt like this wonderfully off-kilter discovery amidst, like, a sea of other great cartoons.
Yeah.
The humor could be genuinely surprising.
It definitely occupied a unique space, kind of sandwiched between earlier Cartoon Network classics and the wave of shows that defined the 2010s. Chowder had its own distinct flavor. A real commitment to the bizarre.
Exactly. And today we're plunging headfirst into the whole deliciously strange world of Chowder.
That's fun.
We've got a fantastic cheat sheet, basically a comprehensive recap video from the YouTube channel Jartoon.
Yeah.
They gravely tackled all 3 seasons.
Wow. Condensing a show with that level of, creative energy into a single video, that's no small feat.
Right.
It really highlights the, enduring interest in these animated series and the effort fans put into analyzing them.
For sure. So our mission today is to extract all the essential Chowderness for you, the listener. We want to cover the key characters, the storylines that stick with you, those recurring jokes that, land every single time, and really understand what made this show so uniquely Chowder.
Gotcha.
Think of this as your quick guide to being completely in the know about Marzipan City. No marathon viewing required. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's meet the wondrously weird inhabitants of Chowder. First up, the main ingredient himself.
Yeah.
Chowder.
Right, Chowder. So he's described as a chubby purple bunny bear thing, and that visual is immediately striking, isn't it?
It really is.
It kind of sets the tone for the whole show's design sense. He's got this incredible, almost manic enthusiasm for becoming a master chef, an appetite that seems to defy physics, and, a fundamentally good heart, even when his actions lead to just utter pandemonium.
Oh, he's definitely a walking, talking catalyst for chaos. The most endearing way possible, though.
Totally.
And then there's his long-suffering mentor, Mung Daal, the expert chef, owner of the catering company.
Yeah, Mung. He acts as a somewhat more grounded anchor in this, sea of absurdity, though he's certainly not immune to the show's bizarre logic himself.
Right.
He possesses the culinary expertise, but Chowder's apprenticeship constantly pushes the boundaries of his patience and his sanity, probably.
Definitely his sanity. And we can't forget Schnitzel, the strong, mostly silent presence in the kitchen.
Yeah.
This rock monster who communicates almost entirely through...
Rada.
Rada, exactly.
The brilliance of Schnitzel lies in how much comedic mileage the show gets out of that limited vocabulary. Rada can convey a surprising range of emotions,
It really can.
And his just stoic reactions to the surrounding madness are often a highlight. It's a testament to the power of, visual and physical comedy.
And then we have Truffles, Mung's elderly mushroom Sprixy wife.
Truffles.
She's in charge of orders and the finances and not very nice.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Truffles provides a fantastic counterpoint to the general sweetness of the other main characters.
Mm-hmm.
Her grumpiness and sharp tongue add this layer of cynical humor that balances the show's more whimsical element.
It really does. And all this culinary craziness unfolds in Marzipan City, a setting where food isn't just something you eat. It's like the very lifeblood of the community.
Marzipan City itself feels like a character, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Everything, from the architecture to the daily routines, it all revolves around food and the often bizarre culinary creations that emerge from its kitchens.
Yeah.
This allows for just an endless stream of food-related visual gags and these, outlandish scenarios.
And we can't overlook Gazpacho, the woolly mammoth food vendor.
Oh, Gazpacho.
He's Chowder's friend and the go-to guy for whatever strange ingredient Mung happens to need that week.
Gazpacho kind of embodies the almost overly friendly and supportive atmosphere of Marzipan City. He's always ready with, sometimes questionable advice.
Definitely questionable.
And access to the city's more unusual ingredients, further solidifying the setting's quirky, food-obsessed identity. And like our source noted, we'll encounter even more of Marzipan City's unique as we delve.
Okay, so we've met the core players. Let's dive into the early episodes and some of the initial bursts of Chowder chaos. The very first episode, Perfect Chowder, it really throws you straight into the show's distinctive style.
It does. Right from the beginning, you're hit with Chowder's incredibly short attention span and the over-the-top, almost cartoonishly exaggerated food humor, like the concept of mint being so potent it can freeze someone solid.
Right.
It immediately establishes the kind of reality the show operates within one, where the rules of the physical world are flexible, especially when food is involved.
And then the froggy apple crumble pumpkin, even the name sounds like something out of a fever dream.
Totally.
The enormous recipe book, the sentient attacking fruit, thumb wrestling with a giant food hand. It's just a relentless barrage of wonderfully bizarre moments. And of course, in true Chowder fashion, he manages to let the customer walk off without paying.
It perfectly illustrates the central comedic tension of the show, doesn't it? Chowder's boundless enthusiasm and good intentions constantly colliding with his lack of skill and tendency towards accidental destruction.
Exactly. It sets up that recurring dynamic between his eagerness and his inexperience. Then we get Chowder's girlfriend, which introduces us to Endive, Mung's pompous rival chef.
Endive.
And her aggressively affectionate apprentice, Panini.
Right. Endive represents this different approach to the culinary world, more focused on prestige and maybe less on the joy of creation that Mung embodies.
Good.
And Panini's immediate and very forceful declaration that Chowder is her boyfriend. Well, that establishes one of the show's most enduring and hilariously uncomfortable running jokes.
Oh, it's so effective. I think it's Panini's absolute unwavering conviction in the face of Chowder's just utter terror.
Right. The contrast is just inherently funny. And her over-the-top romantic gestures, like the musical number in this episode. Oh my gosh, the musical number.
Exactly. With pyrotechnics, the Shaka Zeus firework guy causing an explosion, these grand, dramatic displays are completely at odds with Chowder's simple desire to be left alone.
Yeah.
It just amplifies the comedic effect.
Yeah.
And that recurring singing character just popping up unexpectedly,
Yeah.
it adds another layer of surreal absurdity.
Totally. And Gazpacho's terrible advice to simply marry Panini.
Oh, classic gazpacho.
Yeah.
Well-meaning, but completely out of touch with reality.
Completely. Chowder's eventual, albeit temporary escape at the end of the episode feels like just a brief respite in a inevitable.
Yeah, poor Chowder.
Speaking of disastrous attempts, the Purple Nurples showcases Chowder's first solo recipe endeavor, and his overconfidence goes about as predictably wrong as possible.
This episode really plays with that comedic trope of overestimating one's abilities, right?
Chowder's eagerness to prove himself clashes spectacularly with his actual skill level, leading to the accidental poisoning of the Purple Nurple, which is just a prime example of his well-intentioned incompetence having hilariously disastrous consequences.
And Mung's reaction is almost absurdly sweet, even if it makes zero logical sense. His worry about crushing Chowder's culinary dreams is so strong that he goes to these ridiculous lengths, disguising himself to buy all the potentially lethal treats.
It really highlights Mung's underlying compassion, doesn't it? And his commitment to nurturing Chowder's passion, even when Chowder makes things incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
It's a testament to his role as a mentor, however exasperated he might get. And the introduction of Gorgonzola, that wonderfully unpleasant rat character, he adds another layer of comedic complication. Mung's elaborate and costly efforts to save Gorgonzola, only to end up penniless, but still expressing pride in Chowder. It's a fantastic example of the show's often ironic and character-driven humor.
It really is. And then we have Schnitzel makes a deposit. Our source calls this an all-time classic, and it's hard to disagree. The premise is so simple, Schnitzel trying to open a savings account.
Right. But the execution is pure comedic genius. What makes this particular episode stand out?
For me, it's just a masterclass in visual comedy, and Schnitzel's beautifully understated reactions to the increasingly frustrating and bureaucratic process.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that he can't articulate his annoyance beyond rada rada somehow just amplifies the humor.
Totally.
It speaks to the show's ability to derive comedy not just from outlandish situations, but from, relatable frustrations expressed in utterly unique ways. It's a testament to how much can be conveyed through nonverbal performance and animation.
Absolutely. And before we move on from these early episodes, we have to give a nod to those short, hilarious puppet skits that pop up during the credits.
Oh, yeah, the puppet credits. Those act as perfect little comedic afterthoughts.
They do.
They often feature the characters in even more absurd and meta situations, providing a final quick laugh that leaves you with the show's unique brand of humor just lingering.
No. All right, we've gotten a good taste of the early chaos. Let's move into some of the recurring elements and further adventures we see throughout the mid-seasons. Certification class is a prime example of the show taking a relatively mundane scenario and just pushing it to its absolute comedic limit.
Definitely. Mung's outdated chef certificate and the introduction of the hilariously strict instructor, Reuben.
Yeah.
It immediately sets the stage for comedic conflict. The show exaggerates the importance of following recipes to this absurd degree, labeling those who deviate as recipe pirates.
Recipe pirates. It's such a wondrously silly concept.
It is. And of course, Mung doesn't exactly handle this with maturity. His increasingly ridiculous pirate attire, as he repeatedly fails Reuben's tests, is just visual comedy gold.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the implication of Endive trying to bribe Reuben with her phone number?
Right. That adds a wonderful layer of her competitive and perhaps not entirely ethical nature. It reinforces Endive's character as someone who will use, any means necessary to get ahead. And Mung's eventual solution, simply stealing Endive's certificate, perfectly encapsulates his somewhat rebellious and certainly resourceful personality when faced with bureaucratic absurdity.
And the running gag of Reuben being literally a pig.
Oh, yeah, that's another example of the show's commitment to nonsensical but, effective humor.
Then we have the two-part misadventure of The Wrong Address and The Blind Date, which cleverly run in parallel from different characters' perspectives.
Right.
The Wrong Address follows Mung and Chowder's disastrous delivery attempt.
This episode is just a perfect storm of escalating misfortune, right? Driven by Chowder's initial mistake of eating the map.
Eating the map.
Relying on their gut for directions, the completely random police chase, ending up in a dangerous part of town, each event just compounds the chaos in a wonderfully unpredictable way.
And the supposed customer who didn't order anything, the sudden appearance of a rat claiming he did, the stolen car, the pepper spray incident. It's a truly wild sequence of events.
It really is.
And of course, the rat doesn't even leave a tip. Then they return to find the kitchen in ruins and Truffles being arrested. You just can't help but feel for Schnitzel having to clean up that monumental mess.
It's chaos distilled to its purest comedic form. The humor comes from the sheer absurdity of the escalating misfortunes and the characters' often bewildered reactions.
Definitely.
And the introduction of the blind owl during the police chase becomes this crucial link to the parallel narrative, the blind date.
Right, which gives us Schnitzel and Truffles' experience during this same time frame.
Exactly. So from their point of view, this chaotic blind owl crashes into their kitchen, and Truffles, in her typical decisive manner, immediately assumes Schnitzel is to blame.
Of course she does. Truffles' quick judgment and her inadvertently tying up both herself and Schnitzel is just classic Truffles.
It is. And despite her constant nagging, Schnitzel still feels compelled to rescue her from the hapless elderly owl.
True.
The irony of Schnitzel being hailed as a hero by the police while Truffles ends up in custody is a perfect example of the show's often skewed sense of justice and comedic timing.
Moving on, Gazpacho Stands Up gives us a glimpse into Gazpacho's aspirations as a comedian, which, well, let's just say his comedic talent is questionable at best. It begins with Mung and Chowder baking a meanie cream cake.
Yeah.
And Chowder's utter inability to even write the mean message on it is genuinely funny.
That recurring gag of Chowder's difficulty with writing becomes a small but consistent source of humor, doesn't it? Highlighting his general impracticality.
It does.
And Gazpacho's sudden fourth wall break when Chowder accidentally writes on the viewer's screen. That's the kind of self-aware meta humor that the show occasionally throws in.
It is. And the whole extended bit with Chowder trying to help Gazpacho with his terrible observational comedy, which hilariously turns out to be just reading cookbook recipes as jokes.
Oh my God, yeah. That's so wonderfully bizarre and unexpected. Plus, we get introduced to Gazpacho's seemingly cold and critical mother.
Right.
The introduction of his mother provides some context for Gazpacho's insecurities and his perhaps misguided attempts at validation through comedy. The fact that his comedy gold book is literally just a cookbook perfectly encapsulates the show's commitment to nonsensical humor that somehow still lands.
Sniffleball introduces us to a decidedly more germ-filled version of baseball.
Ugh, yeah.
And of course, the recurrent Zeus concert guy makes another appearance. Panini's unwavering affection for Chowder remains in full force, and Gorgonzola's pitching skills definitely live up to his sarcastic nickname, the Zinger, albeit in all the wrong ways.
Sniffleball is another great example of the show taking a familiar concept and twisting it into something utterly ridiculous and slightly unsettling.
Definitely unsettling.
Chowder's complete misunderstanding of the rules, especially his interpretation of home and his exaggerated run across an improbable 14 bases, complete with a Mario reference, is just pure visual absurdity.
Then we have Mung on the Rock, where Mung completely forgets his and Truffles' 450th anniversary.
450 years. That's a significant milestone to overlook, even for this chaotic crew.
Right. That long duration of their relationship, despite their constant bickering, actually speaks to a strange, sort of enduring bond.
It does. Truffles' dramatic silent treatment and Mung's subsequent descent into sadness, which even affects his cooking, reveals a surprising level of emotional interdependence in them.
And Gazpacho's characteristically terrible advice involving fizzy river juice fruit leading to a citywide flood.
Classic gazpacho. It's actually quite sweet when Truffles ultimately saves Mung, and the brief flashback to their younger days offers a rare moment of genuine sentimentality.
Yeah, it was nice.
That flashback provides a valuable glimpse into their history and reminds us that even the most outwardly grumpy characters have a shared path. The image of a younger, perhaps slightly less jaded Mung and Truffles adds an unexpected layer of depth.
This is around the time we're properly introduced to Chestnut,
Yeah.
the tiny blue gremlin who has a remarkable talent for misinterpreting, well, just about everything.
Chestnut, he's fantastic.
Mistaking Mung's unconscious body for a dining room table after Chowder accidentally knocks him out with warm milk. That's a level of misunderstanding only Chowder could pull off.
Chestnut is a fantastic recurring character whose constant misinterpretations become a reliable source of comedic gold. The sheer absurdity of him mistaking a fully clothed, mustachioed Mung for a piece of furniture perfectly encapsulates the show's commitment to the surreal.
At Your Service sees Endive in possession of some rare ingredients that Mung desperately needs, leading to a temporary truce where Mung and Chowder become her servants for a day.
Right.
Cleaning her grease hole and peeling grow tattos in her dungeon sounds like a particularly unpleasant bargain.
It really highlights the ongoing competitive dynamic between Mung and Endive, doesn't it? And Mung's willingness to endure humiliation if it benefits his business. The seemingly grim fate of being crushed by the potatoes, only to reveal they've cleverly made grotato salad, is a great comedic misdirection.
It is. And Endive's predictable rage and destruction of the very fruit Mung needed is just the perfect, spiteful conclusion to her generosity.
Yep, sounds like Endive.
Then we have the rather unsettling experience of Chowder and Mr. Fugi, where Chowder has the unenviable task of taking a red balloon named Mr. Fugi,
Oh, Mr. Fugi.
who was carried around by a creepy rich cat, out to eat. It sounds as strange and slightly disturbing as you might imagine.
This episode definitely leans into the more surreal and slightly unsettling aspects of the show's humor. Mr. Fugi's demanding nature and the overall bizarre dynamic with the silent, creepy cat make it memorable for its sheer strange.
Yeah, it's weird.
It showcases the show's willingness to venture into slightly darker comedic territory sometimes.
Rat Sandwich marks the return of the persistently annoying Reuben,
Reuben again.
who's now using his pet rat to scam free food, specifically targeting Mung's catering company. Of course, Chowder's immediate reaction is wanting to try the rat sandwich.
Of course it is.
And the fact that the rat is very much alive just amplifies the gross out fact.
This episode perfectly encapsulates Reuben's parasitic personality and Chowder, uniquely adventurous culinary curiosity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The eventual rebellion of all the rats against Reuben provides a satisfying moment of karmic justice, though. It's a relief to see him finally face some consequences for his mood.
Agreed. Chowder loses his hat, has a surprisingly intricate plot for what seems like a simple premise.
It does, doesn't it?
Chowder misplaces his hat, his inability to write his own name becomes a key plot point, and Chestnut, in his characteristic way, mistakes the hat for a vacation home and then a mobile residence, leading to further complications.
It's a classic example of a seemingly small incident escalating into a series of increasingly bizarre misunderstandings, all fueled by Chowder's forgetfulness and Chestnut's utterly unique perspective on the world. The earlier established detail of Chowder's illiteracy becomes crucial to the unfolding chaos, a nice bit of comedic setup and payoff.
The Season 1 finale, The Apprentice game, throws all the apprentices into an athletic competition that, predictably, devolves into utter chaos.
Oh, yeah.
We see the return of the flamboyant dance master Pate and his equally enthusiastic student, Ceviche, much to the dismay of Panini and Endive.
Right, pate and ceviche.
And the forced teamwork leads to some truly bizarre pairings, like Panini with Ceviche and Chowder with the ever-unenthusiastic Gorgonzola.
The very idea of an athletic competition within the Chowder universe was always destined for comedic disaster.
Pretty much.
The reappearance of seemingly random but memorable characters like Dance Master Pate reinforces the show's wonderfully unpredictable nature, and Mung and Stilton's utterly terrible disguises and even worse attempts at dance.
So cringy.
But funny.
Humorously cringe-inducing, exactly. And Chowder and Gorgonzola's equally dreadful song about their desires for thrice cream and acceptance. It's no wonder the audience and even the visiting queen decide to make a swift exit.
Yeah, it's a wonderfully anticlimactic way to cap off the season. It perfectly sets the stage for the continued unpredictable storylines and character dynamics we've come to expect. The lack of a neat resolution to the games is almost a resolution in itself, fitting the show's overall anarchic spirit.
Season 2 kicks off with the election. Panini throws her hat in the ring to become president of the Apprentice Club with the somewhat alarming platform of legalizing child marriage.
Right, to Chowder specifically.
To Chowder, of course. Gorgonzola, unsurprisingly unpopular, tries to manipulate Chowder into being his puppet candidate.
Panini's unwavering and perhaps slightly unsettling obsession with Chowder continues to be a major driving force of the narrative.
It really does.
Gorgonzola's inherent unpopularity and his manipulative schemes are perfectly in line with his established character. And Ceviche's unrequited and somewhat awkward crush on Panini adds another layer of comedic tension to the already bizarre election.
The inevitable poster defacing, the hilariously chaotic debate, Gorgonzola's rather childish act of dumping mud on Panini. It's all wonderfully absurd.
It is.
And naturally, just when things seem at their most chaotic, the original president conveniently returns to restore some semblance of order. And Panini, surprisingly, offers Chowder forgiveness.
It shows a slight, perhaps temporary softening of Panini's intense anger towards Chowder, even if her ultimate romantic goal remains the same.
True.
The entire chaotic election serves as a perfect microcosm of the show's overall energy and comedic sense.
We also get a holiday special, the Nishmas Carol, which introduces the delightful Nish Kringle.
Nish Kringle.
A memorable blend of Santa Claus and Krampus. Chowder's main desire is an electric broccoli trimmer, and there's the classic childhood debate about Nish Kringle's actual existence.
Nish Kringle is a perfect example of the show's talent for creating memorable and slightly off-kilter versions of familiar figures. The concept of rewarding good schwingerbread house while punishing bad ones is wonderfully bizarre.
It really is, and fits the show's unique logic.
Totally.
And Gazpacho's rather transparent attempt at being Nish Kringle in a very obvious costume. Well, not exactly a plot twist.
No. Endive blaming Mung's terrible schwingerbread houses for Chowder's lack of presence. Chowder trying to motivate Mung attempting to buy a house from Endive. It's a heartwarming and still very funny holiday story.
It is.
The unexpected moment of Chowder and Panini somewhat setting aside their usual dynamic to try and build a house together is a significant, albeit brief, moment of connection between them.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And the real Nish Kringle's appearance, Chowder immediately eating the house and then explaining his desire to simply make Mung happy, it's surprisingly touching.
It really is.
The exchange of gifts at the end, including Chowder giving Panini a kiss, albeit perhaps unintentionally, hints at a subtle level of character development.
Then there's the wonderfully random crossover in The Hot Date, where Sergeant Hokey goes on a blind date with Miss Bellum from the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, yeah. That was so out of left field. It's almost charming in its sheer unexpectedness.
Right. It's a fleeting but memorable moment that playfully acknowledges the shared universe of Cartoon Network shows, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of narrative sense within the established context of Chowder.
It's a fun wink to the audience, though.
Definitely. Truffles gets sick leads to Mung and Chowder's incredibly irresponsible shopping spree using an unmanned cash register, resulting in them spending all the company's money. The sudden shift to a live-action car wash as a way to pay for the animation is a prime example of the show's willingness to break the fourth wall for comedic effect.
Yeah, those meta moments really work in Chowder, don't they? I think it's the show's established tone of playful absurdity.
That makes sense.
Because the world of Chowder is already so surreal, these breaks in reality don't feel jarring. They feel like a natural extension of the show's comedic.
Yeah. And Truffles, making them work for Endive to pay off their debt, is a perfectly fitting punishment for their fiscal irresponsibility.
Totally deserved.
Wanton Bombs introduces Mung's old culinary master, Lo Mein, and the embarrassing tale of Mung's past failure with wanton bombs due to being distracted by, well, girls.
The backstory.
Naturally, Chowder and Mung then embark on a time travel adventure to try and fix it, complete with the obligatory warnings about the fragility of the space-time continuum.
The introduction of a mentor figure from Mung's past allows for some exploration of his backstory and his own past mistakes, adding a bit of depth to his character.
Sure.
The time travel element, with its inherent potential for chaos and Chowder's inevitable interference, provides a great opportunity for comedic mishaps.
Oh, yeah.
Chowder's ultimately causing everything to collapse by bringing young Mung is a perfectly predictable and hilarious out.
Totally Chowder. The trouble with Truffles deals with Truffles' unusually loud voice scaring away customers.
Her voice is something.
Her discovery of a voice-changing knob and her subsequent adoption of a soothing southern accent is a fun twist. And Schnitzel briefly speaking in a normal voice.
That was amazing. That brief instance of Schnitzel speaking clearly serves as a wonderful payoff for the audience's familiarity with his character.
It really did.
The episode itself plays with the impact of Truffles' abrasive personality on those around her, and her eventual return to her normal loud voice with everyone donning earmuffs is a humorous resolution that maintains the established status quo.
The two-part dinner theater is just a wonderfully chaotic mess.
Oh, the dinner theater, yeah.
Gazpacho proposes a dinner theater murder mystery. Panini lands a major role. Gazpacho plays the villainous Baron von Bondon, and Chowder becomes Detective Schmirlock Honeycomb with a strong preference for an apricot.
The very concept of a dinner theater within the already surreal world of Chowder is just begging for comedic disaster. Chowder's complete and utter confusion about the plot of the play, genuinely believing Gazpacho is a murderer.
It piqued Chowder.
It is.
And then Chowder secretly enlists Ceviche and Gorgonzola for a completely unannounced musical number.
Right.
The bizarre pre-show entertainment, Donde Esta, the play going horribly wrong, the audience turning on Panini, and Chowder accidentally kissing Panini in the dark, causing her to faint from love. Or maybe just the weirdness of it all.
Who knows? It's just layer upon layer of glorious comedic absurdity. It's a perfect example of the show's willingness to embrace utter nonsense for the sake of a laugh. The sheer chaos of the dinner theater production, combined with Chowder's complete lack of understanding and the spontaneous musical, creates a truly memorable and hilariously bizarre two-parter.
Big Ball sees Mung's catering company providing peanuts at a sporting event with an absurdly long full name.
The name.
And a peculiar tradition of never actually scoring. Truffles, naturally, finds this tradition utterly pointless and attempts to score, much to Mung's traditionalist dismay.
The ridiculously long name of the game is a joke in itself, isn't it? Highlighting the often arbitrary and nonsensical traditions that can exist within any community, even a fictional one like Marzipan City.
Good point.
Truffles' rebellious desire to break the scoreless streak clashes perfectly with Mung's staunch defense of the game's honor, creating a fun dynamic.
Yeah. And the sudden appearance of a monster under the stadium who throws the entire crowd into the garbage.
Well, that's just par for the course in Chowder, isn't it?
Pretty much. Apprentice Appreciation Day revolves around Chowder's simple desire for some slobbery cake.
Slobbery cake. Yum.
And the escalating petty competition between Mung and Endive to throw the biggest and best parties for their respective apprentices. Panini, meanwhile, just wants Chowder to attend your party.
Right.
And they actually have a surprisingly heartfelt conversation about feeling unappreciated.
This episode offers a more human and relatable look at the characters, showing their vulnerabilities and desires for recognition.
It does.
Mung's realization that he's been neglecting Chowder and Endive's eventual begrudging allowance of Chowder to attend Panini's party shows a subtle but significant level of character growth, even if Chowder still remains steadfast in his denial of Panini's affections.
Yeah, some things never change. In Affair to Remember, Chowder attempts to evade Panini and encounters Marmalade, who gives him a rather drastic makeover.
Marmalade, right.
Panini's resulting jealousy leads to a trip to a medieval utensil fair and a planned joust that is ultimately thwarted by rain.
Rained out joust, classic.
Marmalade then reveals her romantic interest actually lies with Ceviche, leading to a bit of a romantic reshuffling among the younger characters.
It's an episode that explores themes of friendship and romantic rivalry in a typically quirky Chowder fashion. Panini experiencing jealousy firsthand is a notable moment of character development for her. And Marmalade's unexpected attraction to Ceviche adds a surprising twist to the established romantic dynamic.
Tofu Town Showdown reveals a completely unexpected and rather epic backstory for Schnitzel.
Oh, this one's great.
Apparently, he was once a hero in Tofu Town, battling the fearsome teriyaki triad, led by the menacing Big King Duck, using only a bologna sword to protect the captured old man Shabu Shabu.
A bologna sword. It's a brilliant example of the show's capacity for surprising its audience and adding layers to seemingly one-dimensional characters.
Definitely. Yeah. What do you think of this sudden heroic reveal for a character who mostly just says rada rada?
The sheer unexpectedness of Schnitzel's heroic past, juxtaposed with his current silent demeanor, is inherently comedic.
Yeah.
Chowder's distracting karaoke during Schnitzel's intense fight scene and the numerous pop culture references from Kill Bill to Dragon Ball Z further enhance the comedic absurdity.
The references were great.
And the rescue of old man Shabu Shabu from fortune cookie batter. That's just the perfect Chowder touch.
It really is. And finally, we arrive at the series finale. Chowder grows up.
The end of the line.
In true Chowder fashion, he manages to blow up the kitchen one last time, leading Mung to express serious concerns about his readiness to become a master chef.
Understandable concerns.
We then get a significant time skip of 20 years, offering a glimpse into the future lives of all the beloved characters.
The finale provides this bittersweet look at the long-term trajectories of these characters, showing how their core personalities and relationships evolve, or in some cases don't.
Right.
Mung and Truffles finally achieving retirement, the surprising pairing of Schnitzel and endive in marriage.
That was a shocker.
Chowder and Mung visiting a now. Intense. Panini at her own bakery where she's still fixated on Chowder and perhaps mistreating her own apprentice. Gorgonzola becoming a corporate bully.
Yeah.
And Gazpacho's somewhat dubious career change to a ninja who is also apparently dating.
It's a wonderfully strange and slightly poignant look into their futures. Chowder taking on his own apprentice. Their predictably disastrous attempt at following a recipe and Gazpacho's less-than-secret ninja retirement all feel very true to their established characters.
They do. Chowder's ultimate decision to embrace his own unique way of cooking, ditching the strict adherence to recipes and creating a surprisingly successful half-baked dish, feels like a fitting conclusion to his chaotic journey.
It really does.
It emphasizes the idea that growth and success don't necessarily mean conforming to traditional expectations. The final montage showing everyone moving forward with their lives, culminating in Chowder happily running the catering company, married to Panini with a multitude of babies.
So many babies.
It offers a sense of closure, albeit a distinctly Chowder-esque one. And the concluding mention of the Lil Nas X Hey Panini music video as a sort of unexpected semi-revival is a perfect meta-nod to the show's lasting cultural footprint.
Definitely. So reflecting on this deep dive into Chowder, a few key elements really stand out, don't they?
Yeah, for sure.
It was undeniably a show about a young, enthusiastic chef's incredibly chaotic journey, driven by a unique brand of bizarre, food-centric humor, and brought to life by a cast of truly unforgettable and wonderfully quirky characters.
Absolutely.
It consistently surprised you with its willingness to embrace the unexpected and the outright surreal.
Absolutely. The aha moments for me often stemmed from the show's commitment to absurdity and the characters' wonderfully deadpan reactions to the most outlandish situations.
Right.
Schnitzel's limited vocabulary becoming a surprisingly versatile comedic tool, Panini's unwavering and slightly unsettling pursuit of Chowder,
Oh, yeah.
and the sheer inventiveness of the food creations and the scenarios they inspired, all that contributed to the show's unique charm.
And for you, our listener, I hope this deep dive has provided a quick yet thorough understanding of a truly creative and hilarious animated series. You've hopefully gotten a good sense of the essence of Chowder, its humor, its memorable characters, its wonderfully weird world, without needing to invest countless hours in watching every single episode.
This raises an interesting point, though. What is it about a show like Chowder that allows it to resonate so strongly with its audience, even years after it originally aired? Perhaps it's that fearless embrace of the surreal combined with its surprisingly endearing characters. It's certainly carved out its own distinct and memorable place in the landscape of animated television.
That's a great question to ponder, and it makes you wonder about the show's influence on subsequent animated series, doesn't it?
It does.
Did Chowder perhaps pave the way for other shows that weren't afraid to embrace offbeat humor and unconventional world? Maybe take a moment to consider if that particular blend of culinary themes and surreal comedy resonates with your own preferences in entertainment.